In this video, we're going to take a look at the logical function called AND. AND is used when you want to look at multiple logical tests and you want to know if all of them are true. Okay, so we've got sample spreadsheet here where we're going to look at two things. We've got some students over here. Each one has a homework score. Each one has a final test score, and we need to figure out if they passed the class or not. And the rule in this case is in order to pass the class, they have to have a passing grade for the homework, and that is the number 70. So we need to compare this value with this value. And we also need to know if they passed the test, and we need to compare the test value with this value over here. If both of those things are true, they passed the course. If either one of them is not true, then they fail the course. So they have to pass both, and means both, or if you're talking about more than two logical tests, and means all. All of them must be true. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this down into pieces to make it a little bit simpler, and we're going to do two logical tests here. We're going to do one logical test to see if a student passed the homework or not. So you know, it's always legal to go over here and find some unused columns, you know, off to the right somewhere, and create some intermediate results to make it a little bit easier to do everything else on your spreadsheet. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put some simple formulas over here. And the student passed the homework if his homework is greater than or equal to the minimum homework score, and that is never moving, so that's going to be an absolute cell reference with $signs, and hit the enter key. And it looks like George passed the homework, and if you compare 80 with 70, yeah, he did pass the homework. Okay, and let's check and see how the other three students did. And it looks like John passed the homework, but Thomas and James did not. So true means they passed, false means that they did not pass. Okay, the other thing that I have to check is I have to find out, did they pass the test? And so I need to compare a student's test grade and see if it is greater than or equal to the minimum test value here. And again, that's going to be an absolute cell reference. I need to put the $signs in, hit enter. George did pass because 90 is greater than 65. And let's copy that down with our fill handle. And it looks like the only two people that passed the test were George and Thomas. They both had a 90, which is greater than 65, and John and James both had a 60, which is less than 65. So true means they passed the test, false means they did not. Now I want to know if they passed both. Okay, I want to know if this is true and this is true. So whenever you hear the word both or the word and, it means you're going to be using the logical function AND. So go to your formulas tab up here, go to the logical book with purple one with question mark on it, and choose AND. And AND needs to have logical values. A logical value is something that is true or false. Okay. Now, I could have typed in the actual logical formulas or logical tests that I typed in these cells here, but I'm just trying to simplify it and make it a little bit easier. We end up with a few more formulas on the spreadsheet, but the formulas we have are going to be simpler. So a logical value is simply true or false. So I need to put either a logical test in there, or the value true or false, or a cell that has a logical test or the value true or false in it. So I want to know if this is true, and I want to know if this is true. Okay, so I want to know if I2 is true, which it is. I want to know if J2 is true, which it is. And you notice when I type this in, it comes up with a logical 3 value. And it will continue to do that as long as I keep on typing in logical tests. It will always open up one more for me up until I type in 255 logical tests. That's the limit. And as long as all of the logical values that I put in here are true, the result of my formula will be true. If any one of these is not true, then the result of my formula will be false. So what I'm asking with an AND is, are all of the logical tests true? And it'll return true if they are. We don't need to put anything in here for a logical test number 3. It's okay to leave that blank when you click on OK, as a matter of fact, and you look at your logical test. There it is. It's just got I2 and J2. Okay, and George did pass both, so the value true appears here. He was the only one. So if we get our fill handle and copy this formula down, this is false because not both of these are true. There's a false value here. This one is false because not both of these are true, and this one is false, obviously, because both of those are false. So this means that the student passed. This means that the student failed. But I don't want true and false in the cell. I want P or F in the cell. Okay. The AND function just returns true or false. So what I need to do if I want to make a decision about what to put in a cell is I have to use an if function. So we're going to go here and we're going to put in an if, and we'll use the function arguments dialog box again. And the logical test is this value here. And the value, if true, is I want the letter P. I only have to put the quotation marks in. When I tab out, it'll put the quotation marks in for me. F is the value of false, and when I tab out or click on OK, for a brief fraction of a second here, you should see the quotation marks appear around the F before the dialog box goes away. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I want to look at this value over here, and if it's true, put the letter P, and if it's not, put the letter F. And if I copy that down, you'll see this one looks at K3, this one looks at K4, and this one looks at K5. Now, you don't have to do all those small intermediate steps. If you've practiced using functions a little bit, you can just type this in. So let's type it in. Equals, I know it's an if, and my logical test is both of these things have to be true. So I'm going to use an and the first thing is B2 has to be greater than or equal to $F $2, comma, the other logical test, the second logical test, is C2 has to be greater than or equal to $G $2, and that's the end of the and. Now that is my logical test. That is basically what I had over here, and actually it's kind of a combination of all three of these cells over here, and that's my logical test. So if I put a comma, then the next argument to the if function is the value of true, and the value of true is the letter P, and I have to type the quotation marks this time. And if it's false, then they failed, so I want the letter F there, quotation marks. And then I close the parenthesis, and notice that Excel color codes the parentheses for you so that the color of the opening one and the color of the closing one match. So I've got a red one here and a red one here, so those open and close the argument list for the AND function, and this one open and close. The black ones open and close the argument list for the if function. And that is functionally going to do exactly what I had here before. It's a little more work to write here, but I didn't have to write anything over here to do it. You know, if you're just learning to use Excel, I would recommend breaking it up into pieces like this and using some extra columns that are unused over here on the right side. Once you get used to it, it's not really all that hard to write something like this. So I hit the enter key and it should tell me George passed, and if I copy this formula all the way down, it should tell me that the other three students failed. And that's how you use the AND function. You can extend this to as many logical values as you want, up to 255. In real life, you're probably rarely going to use more than about a maximum of 3 or 4 logical tests.